Bonjour, and welcome back to Southwest France. My name is Jean Sandbloom, and I bought this 200-year-old house about 7 years ago, and I've been doing projects on it ever since. Today, we're going to talk about some cool stuff. We're going to talk about entertainment, Wi-Fi, cell phones, staying connected. Exactly how much of your English language entertainment that you're going to be able to have here in France, not just in your living room, but also in the movie theaters. And first, though, I thought we'd take a walk up to the 100 French oak trees that I have here on the property and just kind of walk around and tell you some of the other stuff that I do here all the time. I thought I'd start, though, with shutters. As you drive around the area here, you find that shutters aren't just functional, they're almost like communication. People traditionally get up in the morning, open the shutters, you know they're home. At night, they close them. In the summertime, it changes a little bit. Last week, it got up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit here. It was really hot. And today, it's going to be in the mid 90s. So what you do is, when you don't have air conditioning, because most of the houses out here in the countryside don't have air conditioning, but you do have 2-foot thick walls, is you want to capture the cold air inside the house just as quickly as you can in the morning. So you get up, open up the house, and just as soon as it starts to get hot, then you want to start closing up the house. And that's what we're going to do right now. So the great thing about shutters, which, by the way, I did not have when I got here. I had these hinge pins on every window in the house, so I know that shutters at some point were on the house. I found a builder. His name was Bob the Builder. He was from the UK. He was pretty much retired, but he would occasionally take on projects that he thought were interesting. And he was really an artisan. He hand built all the shutters on the house. I added the hardware, painted them, and put them on the house. And I think it just really makes the entire house look so much better. So as it starts to get hot, I'm not going to close these all the way, but it really will help, in addition to closing the windows and the curtains inside the house, keep everything cool. And likewise with these doors, which, by the way, were here when I did buy the house, which is why I knew that they had shutters on the house, because I just copied the colors. Awesome. Let's walk up to the garage, because Bob the Builder also helped me build the garage doors. So when I got here, where the left-hand door is right now was just an odd set of bricks that were blocking off that side of the door. So Bob knocked the bricks down for me and hand built both of these doors as well. And now off to the 100 oak trees. So when I got here, I actually counted the oak trees on the property, and there were exactly 100. I have no idea what the significance of exactly 100 oak trees represents, but since then, I've been trying to make them healthy. And probably 2 years ago, they were like, the trees looked like bushes, and the bushes, I couldn't really tell if they were trees. There's a tree down here by the house that Pascal goes, oh, that's a chestnut tree, but it was a bush. So I've been going around the whole property trimming the trees to look like trees. So I've been getting rid of all of the saplings on the ground. I've been cutting the lower branches off the trees, trying to remove pieces of ivy like this that are just kind of sapping the life out of the trees. And you really want to keep the trees as healthy as you possibly can, because what happens when they're not healthy, they fall down. So one of the original buildings on the property was a woodshed that was right here. It was useful. I used it for my tools. It was kind of like a miniature workshop, so I didn't have to go to the garage all the time where there really isn't a lot of space. But it was really ugly. And I was thinking of getting rid of it, and it got rid of itself. This tree, literally one tree, fell perfectly and smashed it in half. And this is pretty much what's left of it. I have been slowly taking pieces of it and using it and chopping it as firewood, and this happened a year and a half ago. And then there was another tree right down there that was a little precarious next to the brand new guest house that took forever to build and cost a fortune. And I didn't want the tree to fall on that, so I actually cut that one down as well. So now we're down to 98 trees. But then I've actually walked around the sides of the property and I found some more oak trees that I didn't really count. So we're back to up to 100. So when I got here and everybody kept calling these oak trees, I'm like, wait a minute, those aren't oak trees. They're certainly not the oak trees that we have back in California that are really huge, gnarly. They're a lot shorter. They have really huge trunks. And as a matter of fact, where I live, just outside of Los Angeles, it was illegal to cut them down because they took forever to grow. But if you look really closely at these, you can definitely see that it's the same kind of oak leaf on the trees that we had back in California. And as you can see, there's even acorns on there. So these are oak trees. They're just different because these are French oak trees. And these are the oak trees that they make wine barrels out of, that they use in Bordeaux and Burgundy and all over France and all over the world. They even use them in Napa Valley in California. As I recall, the only winery in Napa Valley that used American oak was a winery called Silver Oak. They wanted that huge flavor. And of course, American oak is used very heavily in Australian wines, where they also want that big, bold flavor. The French oak has a much more subtle flavor. It kind of imparts a vanilla into the wine, and you age the wines for several years. Those barrels now can cost as much as $1,000. So got quite an investment here in French oak here in the yard. When you're in first grade, you get the little golden book of things in the meadow. And there are fireflies and moths and dragonflies and spiders and frogs and grasshoppers and just ants. There's all these bugs, and they're all here. When you're cutting the grass, this is just a living biosphere of insects. And it's amazing because in the sunnier areas in the summertime, it's all grasshoppers. And in the shadier areas here, it's all spiders. Now, I'm all about having a friendly relationship with the living creatures that are here on the property until they get to the house. And I will inevitably be working outside. My little office is outside where I do my video editing. And I'll be staring down at the keyboard and there'll be a grasshopper crawling across the keyboard. Or I'll turn my head and just out of the corner of my eye on the wall, about 3 inches from my head, is a spider the size of my hand. And you just get to the point where you kind of stop jumping, but I really draw the line on the inside of the house, where I do what I call the 8 corners spray every month, where you just take the top 4 corners of every room and the bottom 4 corners of every room, and you put some Raid there. Because if you don't, you will have the world's largest collection of spider webs all over your house, and they will take over the house. So keeping this grass trimmed on this hillside is not easy. It usually grows to about a foot, foot and a half long, and then buried inside of it are these huge stones and logs that if you try to take a tractor on it, other than the fact that it's really steep and you could really tip yourself over on the tractor, you're constantly hitting things with the blade on the tractor. I've already had the blade replaced twice. They have to bring a truck. They have to take it away. They have to refurbish it. It's gone for 3 weeks. It's just, and it's expensive. So you really don't want to do that. So in LA, I have a gym membership. Here, I have a lawnmower. And I literally, every day, get up. It's battery powered, so it's about half the weight of a normal lawnmower. And for 45 minutes, which is about the amount of time for the batteries to go dead, I have 2 battery packs. I sit and I trim the hillside. And it is really amazing exercise. This tree house was built by the people that owned the house just before me. I would have given anything to have a tree house like this when I was a kid. I could totally see the top deck being part of a pirate ship. And who knows, sometime in the future, we might find a way to freshen up the treehouse. In the meantime, what I really want to do is I want to build a deck out here. I know this sounds really crazy in the middle of this forest area. It's just, I think it would be so cool to have a deck out here surrounded by these trees and put a bar in it and maybe a pool table in it. There is a style of architecture. When I was taking the train to San Sebastian, which is just over the border between France and Spain, over near Bilbao, and this architecture is nuts. It's like Mountain Lodge in Transylvania. It's so cool looking. And if I could make a deck area with that kind of architecture, I think it would fit the whole France motif and the in the tree motif here. It just be really cool. When I was in central Vietnam, probably about 13, 14 years ago, there was this old colonial hotel, and there was this room that was open on all 4 sides and had a pool table in the middle of it. And it was just the coolest room I've seen anywhere. And I've always just wanted to kind of emulate that if I could. Here on the edge of the property, you might be able to just make out these stones from a former wall that went all the way along the side of the property. And then right here now is wires. They're electrified. The neighbors put them up. The neighbor down there has horses. The neighbor up there has donkeys. It's actually, this property here is actually owned by the neighbor up there, but the neighbor down there talked to the neighbor up there and said, hey, you've got a lot of grass. I got some horses. Let me come and clear your hillside for you. So these negotiations go back and forth all the time. So at the moment, it's wired for the horses so that they can come up and eat. And then maybe in a couple of months, it'll be changed again and we'll see donkeys out here. So it's just always different. As a matter of fact, I told the neighbor down here, anytime he wants to, when I'm gone, he's welcome to graze his horses on my property as well, as long as he cleans up afterwards. So all these little friendly neighbor things go on all the time here in the countryside in France. The guest house is absolutely one of the best places to stay here on the property, because when you get up in the morning and you open the curtains, you get to see this whole hillside and you get to look down into the lower part of the property, and you frequently see animals. The deer here are so beautiful. They have this chestnut brown, and it's a color I've never seen. It's just so deep and thick, and you very frequently see does and with their baby deer. And when I first came here to buy the house, I was looking down below and I heard rustling, and a baby wild boar came shooting out of a plant, and the mom was right behind it. And I was like, this is crazy. Wild boar everywhere. There's also rabbits, foxes, wild dogs we'd call coyotes in LA. I don't know what you call them here. But there really is just so much wildlife going on here. Which brings us to the second Sunday in September, which is the beginning of hunting season. And out here in the countryside, hunting is very much a thing. And you don't really think of France and guns, but hunting is part of the culture here because it's part of the food cycle. And everybody that is here hunting is hunting for food. So you will, on that second Sunday in September, starting at 7:30 in the morning, start hearing gunshots everywhere. You will see these trucks going up the street with orange banners on the back. They'll be wearing orange vests. They're very well marked, and it would behoove you, if you've got a really large piece of property, to wear an orange vest as well, especially in the afternoon. They are notorious for having a bottle of wine or two at lunch and then going back hunting, and you don't want to be near anybody that's had a bottle of wine that is out with a gun. So uh, you can put a reserve de chasse sign on the outside of your property, which says, don't even think about it here. I only have 2 acres. That's not really necessary. If you're 10 plus acres, you will actually find many of the people that own large properties will build a wooden chair uh, where hunters are welcome to come and sit and hunt quietly on their property. Uh, Other animals that are here. There are snakes on the property. Uh, if my daughter is here and I'll be down by the pool and I'll see a snake pop its head up through the boards that is the decking of the pool, I'll inevitably gasp and she'll say, what? And I'll just say, oh, nothing, because not a big fan of snakes. Last week, I was going down the spiral staircase inside the house, looked down, and a huge, over meter long, black snake was crawling from the hallway into my bathroom. Uh, when I was a kid, I used to go up in the hills and bring snakes home. My mom was not really a fan of that. Snakes belong outside, not in my bathroom. I have now cleaned that bathroom top to bottom, and I've got Pascal coming over. We think he got in when I just had the electricity and the plumbing redone. They didn't really seal the area around all the pipes and wiring, so he's going to seal that off for me. But in the meantime, I've been spending time in the guest house. And then probably the ultimate was 2 weeks ago. I think everybody wants to come in from the heat. So I had the house entirely closed up all day long. I was inside cooking dinner. It was probably about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I heard fluttering inside the living room. And I thought it was a sparrow. No, it was a bat. Apparently, they have introduced horseshoe bats to the area to help combat the mosquitoes, because some of the mosquitoes here now have dengue and some other, they carry diseases, and they're just really trying to do whatever they can. And apparently a bat can eat 1,000 mosquitoes in a night. So I would love to have a bat on the outside of the house. I didn't want it in the living room. So I went downstairs, turned on all the lights because bats hate lights. By the way, if you have snakes, turn on the vacuum cleaner. Snakes hate loud noises. And then I opened the windows and doors and hoped that the bat would leave before more creatures came in. So hopefully that was a trade-off. I have not seen the bat since, but there are lots of places to hide up in my rafters with all those beams. So that is a look at the property here at MAISON. As I was getting ready to move to France, I was wondering how complicated it's going to be to have a second cell phone, one keeping the one in the US and adding one here in France, what the process was, and also staying connected with Wi-Fi and TV and telephone. So you can get a cell phone here just about anywhere. Uh, Carrefour, E. Leclerc, the grocery stores, they all have counters where you can go in and get a cell phone. And you can get a prepaid cell phone, or you can get an account just like you would anywhere else. The What you want to do if you have a home here, though, and you're going to need Wi-Fi, is to get a bundle, because you really will save a lot of money. The bundles here typically include Wi-Fi, um, TV, and a landline phone. The landline phone here becomes your account number. Everything is connected via that landline number. So I got rid of my landline in the US years ago, but you have to have it here. It is kind of nice to have in case of an emergency. Emergency numbers in France, by the way, are I think it's 15 if you need medical aid, 17 for police, and 18 for the fire department. I do have those down next to the phone. 911 obviously doesn't work here. They do have a European-wide number called 112. Uh, if you use that, it might just take longer because they want to find out what your emergency is, then they have to connect it to somebody else. The downside of a landline phone are the sales calls. The sales calls here are crazy. They happen constantly. My phone, I moved downstairs because it's always ringing. And you don't want to pick it up because they're all sales calls. And the scams they have here are really intense. And the more that you answer the phone, the more databases you go into. So my landline phone sits downstairs. I never answer it. Obviously, if somebody needs contacting me, they call me on my cell phone. And that's the only number that I give out. So you start with your landline phone, and in order to get a landline phone, you need to go to a place called Orange. Orange is the cleverly rebranded France Telecom company, which they rebranded in the year 2013. And you'll find the stores that look kind of Apple-y in boutiques all over France. And there's one in Cahors, my local town. And you go in, and that's where you make an appointment to get your cell phone, hook up the Wi-Fi for your house, and all the other services that you're going to want to stay connected. Very much like an AT&T store in the United States. So when you go to Orange, go to the website first. Just Google Maps the closest store, and when you pull up the store, it'll ask if you want to make a rendezvous, and do. You don't want to wait around. There's always a line in these stores. And even with an appointment, you're still going to wait around for a little bit of time. So make a rendezvous for an agent. And then you're going to want to bring your passport, your bank account ID page, and your address. You might also want to, especially if you live in a hamlet or out in the countryside like I do, is Google map the geo coordinates of your house so that they are 100% sure that they're talking about your house. Things here don't have numbers on it, and you want to make sure that if you're going to set up service to have something connected in your house, that they're setting up the right house. Uh, when you get Wi-Fi here, it's typically about 10 megabytes a second. Tolerable speed, not great. Why fiber optic Wi-Fi is being installed all over France right now, even out here in the countryside. I had an appointment in May to have it installed. 6 months later, it still was not installed here in the house. Just didn't have, I guess, enough ports on the telephone pole. All my neighbors have fiber. I was just the last one on, so then they have to bring a special truck out to create more spots for it. So just know things don't move really quickly here, but once I do get fiber, my Wi-Fi speed is just going to jump at least by 4 or 5 times. Orange here does have an English-speaking helpline, and they have been really, really great. As I tell them, I do a lot of work that requires a much higher speed than 10 megabytes per second. So they have been giving me a free AirBox, which is just like a little mobile Wi-Fi box that talks to the cell phone towers, and it is much faster than the Wi-Fi in my house, and they're giving it to me for free. So I can't really fault them, but just know if you are requiring really fast internet speeds here, you just got to roll the dice and be patient. You will get a live box. A live box is a large box you put under the TV that will give you a TV box as well. And that you just plug straight into the wall. Hopefully the house that you purchased or the apartment that you're renting is already set up for it. I can tell you with 90% accuracy, the person that was there before already had Wi-Fi in the house, so that should be all set up. So your basic TV package here will include about 100 channels. Most of those will be French. And I cut the cable years ago in America. The one good thing about the TV package here, They have about 10 English language news channels from all over the world. There's France 24 in English, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Sky, DW, RF, Nippon, and it's really cool to have access to all the news channels here. And then again, you can go and watch some of the French channels as well. It's a good excuse to try and pick up some words in French. You can add a second tier cable package here. Uh, I cut the cable years ago in America. I really don't know if it's necessary, especially if you have a smart TV, which I do. Uh, then you can add Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, YouTube, and my TV just missed the cutoff to have Apple TV here. I bought it in 2016, 2017 was the cutoff for Apple. So I just went out and bought an Apple TV box and attached it. Now I get all my Apple channels here as well. So your US accounts from any of these channels will work perfectly fine here. You won't see the same menu screen that pops up when you come to France. Some of the titles will be in French, some of the titles will be missing. You'll see some additional titles that, for example, on Netflix here, there might be things that are on different channels in the US because they don't have those channels here. So it's a mixed bag back and forth. One really cool thing is YouTube here has so many programs that are blocked in the United States. I'm a huge fan of uh, Agatha Christie's Poirot, which you have to buy a special service for in the US. Here, it's just available all the time on a channel called Brit TV for free on my YouTube. So it's typically what you would have to do is get a VPN and pretend you're not in the country you're in and all that. Here, just think of it as a fresh VPN. Without the VPN, you can just come here and you'll discover so many things that are available for you to watch. So while you can log into your US TV channels here like Netflix and Prime and Disney Plus, you might not want to use your US account. I sign up for my accounts here in France because they're much cheaper. Amazon Prime in the US is $139 a year. The same service in France, which includes the Amazon Prime shipping services, is only 70 euros. So it's almost half of what it is. And if I go back to America, I can still log on to Prime TV and watch all the shows that would typically be available in America. So it is a much cheaper way. You might have a slight problem with the credit card that's tied to the account being from the US. So if that is the case, generally speaking, if you sign up for cable channels on your laptop here instead of on the TV, you can usually skirt around those situations. If that's not the case, then just use the debit card that you get from the local bank here that is with your checking account that we talked about last week, and sign up with that to pay for your account services, which again will be much cheaper. Uh, TVs here use the what is the system called? SECAM. CCAM is the actual backbone of your TV set. That is the system in which all of the components here work off of. In the United States, it's NTSC. So if you're planning on bringing a TV over when you start shipping stuff, no, two things have to happen. One, the TV has to be not just 110 volts, but it also has to be 220 volts. Most of the uh, things that you buy these days, because these companies want to be able to manufacture something once for the entire world, they don't want to constantly having to be making different products for each country, that they are making things that are both 110 and 220. The TV, in addition to being 220 capable, also has to be CCAM capable. When I came over here, my TV wasn't. It was an awesome TV that I had in America, and I gave it away because it was completely worthless here. Uh, and then the last thing, besides your landline phone and your Wi-Fi and your TV, is adding a mobile to your bundle. They don't call them cell phones here, the mobiles. And you typically get 4G service out here in the countryside. Going into towns, I get 5G service everywhere. So the service is absolutely as comparable as any of the service that you would get in the United States. Uh, my bundle with Orange for Wi-Fi, TV, landline phone, and my cell phone is 70 euros a month. In the US, I have T-Mobile for my cell phone, and that alone costs $70 a month. Um, I am keeping my US cell phone. I switched to T-Mobile a couple years ago because honestly, I am shocked at the service. This is not a paid promotion for T-Mobile, but I switched from Sprint to T-Mobile, and my price went down. The people in the stores actually knew what they were talking about. Whenever I had a problem with my phone, everything worked really well. But even more importantly, I travel a lot. And when I travel to another country with T-Mobile, I have signed up for one of their plans that costed nothing. And when I arrive, I get a text that says I have free data and free texting in just about every country I visited since I switched over for the last 3 years. And why that's important? About 7 years ago, I went to Honduras, and I was driving around and I got lost. So I turned Google Maps on my phone, and I didn't use my phone for anything else. I didn't check emails. I didn't make any phone calls. And 2 days later, I got a notice. I got a phone call from my person at work. It was a work cell phone, and they said that I had already racked up $250 in cell charges just from using Google Maps on my phone. So traveling without the correct cell phone plan can really cost you a fortune in very little time. So that's why I have both the US cell phone, and then I have the new phone here in France. It's best to buy the phone in America, not here. The prices here are just a little bit more expensive. It's so funny. The downstairs phone is ringing. Another sales call is coming in right now. Uh, it's also really cool because I give out my phone number in the US, and people dial as though I'm just down the street. So they dial just the way they always have, and the call comes straight through to my phone. Likewise, when I give out my French phone, um, they can reach me in the US, and no problem at all. For a period of time here, I had two phones. I had my French phone and I had my US phone. Starting in, I think, about 2018, um, Apple started making available dual SIM card slots in all their phones. So if you have anything from the X model after that, so iPhone 12, iPhone 13, iPhone 14, they all have a dual SIM card system. So what you need, the advantage of this is you don't need to carry two cell phones anymore. I have both my French cell phone and my US cell phone in my in the same phone. So the first thing you have to do is your phone has to be paid off, which is really tough because these phones are just crazy expensive. But if your phone's not unlocked, when you go to the cell phone store and say, "Hey, I want you to move my SIM card onto there are two SIM cards in your phone. One is an actual slot, and the other is what they call a virtual SIM inside the phone. When you ask them to move it to the virtual SIM, if you still owe them money for that phone, you did a 12-month contract, an 18-month contract, 24-month contract, they won't do it. Your phone has to be owned by you. And if you do own the phone, they'll do it in 10 minutes. They'll move your account onto the virtual SIM card. Then when you go here, you take the SIM card out of your French phone and just pop it in the second slot. And now both are on the exact same phone. And I get calls all the time from France when I'm in the US, and I get calls from the US here in France, and it's just absolutely seamless. All you have to do is when you go to the US, you just have to go into the settings on your phone, go to cellular, and switch it to the US so that your outgoing calls all come from the US and not your French account. One last thing, set your phone to go to voicemail after no more than 3 rings. Uh, I get sales calls all the time here in France from the US, and I just send them to voicemail. If for some reason I don't have the phone on me, if the phone rings more than 30 seconds, then you have to pay for the call. So it's bad enough you have to deal with the sales calls. It's even worse if you have to end up paying for it because you didn't answer the phone or send it to voicemail fast enough. So it's super easy. Just go into your phone and tell it to send calls to voicemail after no more than 3 rings. So entertainment. Apple TV or Prime movies, you can still watch here. So if you bought a movie in the US, you can watch it here. As a matter of fact, if the movie's not available here, you can generally go to your on the app on your phone, rent or buy a movie, and then you should be able to go to the TV and watch it. When you're looking at the menu, you'll recognize the pictures on the movies or on the TV shows. A lot of the times the titles will be in French, but you can pretty quickly tell what the title of the movie is. To make sure that you're not going to be getting the movie in French, all you have to do is go to your settings once and turn your preferred language to English. And from that moment on, every time you watch the TV, the shows will be in English. So France wants to protect movie theaters. In the US, when a movie comes out, say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in June, it will be available on streaming services as early as September. In France, you won't find the movie making its way to streaming services for 15 months. And that is the preferred agreement that they just struck with Netflix. Some of the other services are 17 months. And a year ago, it was 3 years. This is all to protect movie theaters here. So there are a lot of movies that I'm excited to see, like Oppenheimer, but I'm not going to get to see it here unless I buy it online, and then I can watch it here in the house. Again, I buy it online through my US account, and then it just appears on my TV here. So, of course, you can still go and see these movies. You just have to go to the theater. And you can go to the theater and you can watch the movie in English. So, what you want to do is just know where the biggest theater is in your nearest town in Cahors. There's a multiplex there called Le Grand Palais, and they have 7 theaters inside, and it's never crowded, and they have a huge variety of movies, and it's really a great place to watch a film. So what you just have to do is, unless you want a really long French language lesson, is you have to go online to the name of the movie theater, search the schedule, and there'll be a listing of VO or VF next to all of the films. VO means Virgin Original, and that means that whatever the movie came out in originally, that's the language that it's going to be played in the theater. So if you want to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it will play in English because it was made in the USA, and it will have French subtitles. Obviously, if you're watching the latest film from Korea about zombies, if it's a VO, it will not be in English. It will be in Korean with French subtitles. So that really sounds like a train wreck. So just know VO is the original version of the movie, and it's the VF, then it will be either in its original French version or dubbed in French. And lastly, I know that movie theaters in the US are all about sitting on a couch with a pizza and a beer at your seat. That's not happening in France. The movie theaters are awesome here. The sound is great. They're really modern, but you're not going to get anything else other than a Coke and a box of candy and a popcorn in the theaters because when you're done, they want you to go across the street to the cafe. So that is a quick look at all of the uh, pieces of entertainment that you're going to have in your living room and when you go to the movie theater here in France. So Pascal was just here to help me with my snake problem. He brought over some spray sealant. You spray it in and then it hardens. So we went down to the bathroom where all the plumbing comes in and sprayed all the areas with the wiring there. So I can now say with about 98% accuracy that there will be no more snakes coming into my bathroom. I will tell you that I've moved back into my bedroom from the guest house. And after cleaning everything top to bottom and checking inside every basket and box, there is currently no snake in my bathroom. Although I will tell you that while I'm pretty confident the snakes can't get in, it's going to be a while before I step foot in that bathroom in bare feet again. So coming up next week, we've got going to the grocery store. The grocery stores here start out tiny, go to absolutely massive in the big city. There's so much stuff that you can buy there, and they're really, really super high quality. I'm going to show you the 13 things that you have to buy if you go to a French grocery store. And while we're there, we're going to pick up a bunch of food and then we're going to come home and cook it. So that's all coming up next week here on MAISON. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, you can click any of these bubbles here for it. We're dealing with French real estate agents, a tour of the house, bank accounts, driver's licenses. I'm trying to find stuff that if you are planning a move to France or any other country, they're just things that you have to think about. So if you don't want to miss any of the future episodes that come up every week, please hit subscribe. Thanks, everybody.